If you can figure out a way to build relationships around you, take the people who already know you and like you and give them a reason to trust you, then you will have more business than you will ever need in your career. When you choose to finally trust yourself, know yourself, love yourself, and have the courage to show up as them unapologetically, I can promise you, people are gravitated towards that. We don't trust our companies. We don't trust leaders. We don't trust salespeople. We don't trust politicians. We don't trust anything anymore. Imposter syndrome simply is a sign that you're growing. You're stepping into a room you've never been in. You're stepping into a role you've never been in, but you wouldn't be in that room if you didn't belong there.
Welcome to the Trailblazers, the space where high-achieving women finally exhale and feel deeply understood.
We are Brittany Anderson and Disha Solanki, two leaders who have built, scaled, exited, and supported multi-8 and 9-figure companies
while carrying far more than most people ever see.
Here we go where most conversations stop.
The burnout, the pressure, the ambition, the identity shifts, the invisible load, and the moments you almost quit.
This is where the real story begins.
Trailblazers.
Today's guest is Barb Betts, keynote speaker, CEO, human connection expert, and author of The Relationship Advantage. Barb has spent more than 2 decades helping people build thriving businesses and stronger lives through one simple principle: authentic human connection. After building a 7-figure business through trust-based relationships, she's now on a mission to help leaders, entrepreneurs, and teams rethink how they communicate, connect, and create lasting impact. In today's conversation, we explore the power of relationships, the courage it takes to be authentically yourself, and how meaningful connection can help us navigate life without loneliness. It's a heartfelt yet powerful discussion that I know will resonate with so many of you. Let's dive in with Barb Betts. Barb, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here today.
I'm even more excited to be here, Brittany.
Yay. Well, we're going to dive right in. You have literally built your business, or I should say businesses, based on the concept of relationship. So I would love for you to share, we heard your bio, but who's Barb? And Barb, where are you today?
Right. That's actually a great question, because I think the context of the background and the story is always important, right? Whenever I'm listening to people and, sometimes everything sounds so great and you don't hear about how they got there. You don't hear about the struggles. You don't know how hard they worked or other versions of them that they lived, because I'm all about different chapters of life and seasons. And so the real long, short story is that I had always dreamed of being a teacher my entire life. When I was 5 years old, my favorite place to go was the teacher supply store, not Toys R Us. And so when I was 17 and graduating high school, I graduated young, I was going to be a teacher. There was no other doubt in my mind that is what I was going to do in college. And then I found out I was pregnant about 3 weeks after I graduated. And so life kind of took a very hard, sharp left turn. And there wasn't online school and Zoom, and there was none of that in the late 90s. So I had to kind of take a step backwards. And I had my son, and I got married to his dad, and we are still married. Fun fact, that's always something people like to hear, almost 30 years later. Turns out I made a good choice. And I found jobs, found things, ended up in real estate. So I have to get to the point of ended up in real estate in the very early 2000s. I was like 22 years old, and I gratefully built a fantastic real estate career. And so through my 24-year real estate career, I built multiple versions of my real estate business through teams, owning my own company with my husband, and truly figuring out after a horrible experience door knocking, which is what most realtors are taught to do, that I had no dream of ever doing sales that way. And so I figured out, kind of by accident, kind of by having some mentors in my life and just realizing, you know what, if you can figure out a way to build relationships around you, take the people who already know you and like you and give them a reason to trust you, then you will have more business than you will ever need in your career. And so I got real intentional and almost systematic about building trust-based relationships and then learning how to ask for business. And then it was a snowball effect from there. And about 14 years ago in the real estate journey, I was asked to start teaching this to other agents and in my own office. And then that spilled off into other offices and associations and stages. And I accidentally built a speaking career inside of the real estate industry. And then about 5 years ago, I decided I want to take this conversation out to other stages and other industries. So for the last 5 years, I've been building a fantastic speaking career. Again, all through relationships. I don't cold email event planners. I don't do any of that. And so I understand the power of relationships at a deeply human level and not just in how it's changed my business, but also how it's changed my life.
Wow. So that is I mean, that's so much learning condensed into one lifetime, right? Like you go from here's what I'm going to do. And then, oop, there's a little curveball for me. And then you're in, real estate and you're door knocking. And then you're like, wait a second, this is terrible. So I'm curious because you use the word trust, Barb. And this has been a conversation in actually quite a few different kind of circles that I've been in lately about how to foster trust and how to develop those relationships. And one interesting thing came up that you have to figure out how to trust yourself before you can actually have others trust you. So, what's your thought, just general commentary around that?
Well, it's the beginning of all of my keynotes. The beginning of all of my keynotes is you can't build a real relationship with anyone else until you have one with yourself. Until you figure out who you really are and love that person, you will never have the courage to fully show up as them in this world. And when you choose to finally trust yourself, know yourself, love yourself, and have the courage to show up as them unapologetically, I can promise you people are gravitated towards that. It radiates off of you. You attract the right people. And I love the idea of trust and the conversation around trust because I speak a lot about how we are in America, in the world, in one of the biggest trust recessions we've ever seen. No one trusts each other anymore. And it's only getting worse, right? We don't trust our companies. We don't trust leaders. We don't trust salespeople. We don't trust politicians. We don't trust neighbors. We don't trust what we see on social media. Is it AI? Is it not? We don't trust anything anymore. And I believe we are in a trust recession, but as I share, I believe it goes a layer deeper than that. We're in a relationship recession. If we had better relationships, we would have better trust because relationships are actually the foundation of trust on every level.
Mm. I think, first of all, I agree with you completely. And I mean, and we won't get into like the whole conspiracy theory, this and that, because it's not what this is about. But if you think about the trajectory of what's happened, I mean, everything is pulling our attention away from developing deep relationships. And, it's interesting because I see, especially in like the female entrepreneur community, I've seen this a lot where all of a sudden a few of us are kind of raising our hands going, hold on, like, yes, AI is great. Technology is beautiful. Let's embrace, have it help us grow in our business and grow, operate faster, more effective, whatever the case is. But I see so many of us raising our hands going, but wait, we want human connection and we crave that. And so I think, Barb, what you just said is completely spot on. And it kind of pivots to the next question a little bit. There's a little bit of overlay here. So we go back, we think about trust, we think about relationship, we think about relationship with self. When you were sharing your path, all I could think about is you are a brave woman because you went from like literally, you're like, yep, my path is set. And now, oh, I think Marie Forleo, her book, Everything is Figure Outable, that was flashing through my head as you were talking. You're like, now I'm going to learn to be a mom. And now I'm going to learn to be in real estate. Oh, and now I'm going to learn to be a speaker. And now I'm going to learn how to, write a book on whatever, like whatever comes your way, you just dive in and you're like, I'm going to figure this out. So what would you say to somebody that maybe has a sense of hesitancy or reluctancy in going all in on what they want or what is in front of them?
It's a really great question. So some of it was like, for instance, having my son so young. So I got pregnant at 17, had him shortly 3 months after my 18th birthday. And in that situation, right, I made the decision to have him. I made the decision to keep him. I'm like, to be transparent, obviously I had lots of choices I could have made. And that's a whole nother podcast why I made those choices, right? But then I make the decision to have him. Okay, now I have a choice. Am I going to put my big girl pants on and learn how to be a teen mom? Because that's what I was. I mean, like, call it, everyone's like, don't put that label on yourself. I'm like, I was a teenager. I couldn't drink. I was a teenager. So I had a decision at that point to like put my big girl pants on and figure it out, to your point, or become a statistic, right? Become a teen mom who failed, because we all know that the statistics are against teen moms. And so I always tell everybody that I would never tell a teenager to go get pregnant, but I would tell a pregnant teenager, you're going to be okay. And I think the decision I had to make was acknowledging this is going to be hard. Like, there's no way around it. And I think it correlates to having a dream. You have a dream to be whatever you want to be, or you have a dream to just go run a marathon. First thing is, it's understanding it's going to be freaking hard. There's no doubt about it. The world's stacked against you, your brain's stacked against you. And then making the decision that I have this significant setback and challenge, but I still want to be successful in life. So now what? Right. And I truly believe it's just taking that one step forward every day. And then when I think about my real estate career, it's like, okay, I don't want to go back to my 9 to 5 job. I don't want a boss telling me when I can be home with my sick kids, which is kind of what propelled me into real estate. Was I was tired of bosses telling me that I couldn't be home with my sick kid. And so it's like, okay, one, it's hard. I don't really want to go out and knock on doors, but what do I do? How do I do this? So it's like, what's one step forward that you can take that may be hard, but will get you closer to your ultimate outcome? So I think it's identifying that things are hard, not pretending it's going to be easy, taking one step forward every day. And then I truly believe then it becomes this like snowball effect. I'm also a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. Now, I do not have that same belief in terrible, horrible things. Okay. I'm talking about everyday life curveballs. That's what I'm talking about. I always want to be clear about that because I have too many friends that have lost children, lost loved ones, who have had major medical diagnoses. And I'm not saying that there's a reason for all of that. Some of that I don't understand. So I want to make that really clear in case anyone's listening that's had something horrible happen in their life like that. But like me getting pregnant with my son, I wasn't going to die. I just had to wake up and take this really hard thing that happened and realize there's a reason. I don't know what it is. I now know he's going to be 30 years old. So 30 years later, I now know that it was because he was meant to be born at that time. He has had this most amazing, incredible life and is doing these things that his dad and I are so freaking proud of. Secondarily, I wasn't meant to be a teacher. I was not meant to be an elementary education teacher. That I do know now. Because I think about the fact that I'd probably be a principal now, knowing my brain and how I work and goals. And I would never want to be a principal in today's school systems. That would frustrate me to no ends. So I was meant to have a different path. And it took me on that path. And then more importantly, realizing where I landed now, I'm still teaching every day. And so I'm still living my passion and my dream. It's just I got taken on a different path. So I was meant to go on that path. I can clearly see that now. I'd be very unhappy, I think, if I had went down the path I thought I was supposed to go on. And I think that's the other thing we have to understand is what you think you're supposed to do versus what actually happens. Sometimes we just have to lean into what actually happens instead of being so rigid in planning and thinking this is the only path I have in life.
I couldn't agree more. And, I think even for our audience members, just sit there and reflect for a moment, thinking about something in your own life that you thought was a for sure thing, or you were certain about it. And then the universe showed up, God showed up, whatever your belief is, and said, that's really cute of you to think that, but here we go a different way. I sit here listening to your story, seeing myself through you, Barb, is that I'm like, yeah, wow, that is so dead on. There's so many things in my life between careers, relationships, friendships, like all the things that you thought were going to be part of your life forever. And it was only part of your life, to your point earlier, for a season, and it served its purpose.
Right.
So, as you think about, tying in like relationships and the journey of bravery and diving into things that maybe feel a little bit scary, when you reflect back on your journey, Barb, and you look at all those pivotal moments, whether it's the, oh goodness, I am pregnant and I'm 17, or it's, okay, I have to figure out this real estate game because I am not going to miss my kids', events, sickness, whatever it is. Did you have relationships around you that were fully supportive, or did you feel like you kind of had to navigate alone?
That's a great question. No, full if definitely supportive, very much the person that has always had the mantra, I don't know it all. and I need mentors and support along the way. And I've been really great because I am such a good relationship builder. I'm a person that has a foundation of gratitude. I give people time and attention. And so I think I've attracted mentors that see something in me, and then I reciprocate by actually showing up as the mentee. And I think that we have a lot of people in our lives that want to help us, but we don't show up in a way that is, if you will, helpable, right? And so if you don't show up in a way that someone else is like, "You are worth my time and attention, and I see a spark in you." I do it all the time. There's people I see a spark in, I wanna help them, and then they don't show up to a call, or they are distracted when we're having the conversation, or they don't do what they said they would do to actually help their problem, and I'm out. I'm like, I got way too many things to do, right? So or they will come to the calls and they whine and complain. So I had a ton of support, a ton of great mentors, both in not so much in the having the baby, right? Having the baby, honestly, we just needed our family to help us financially because I was a teen mom and I had no income and no job and no anything, right? So we really just needed, frankly, financial support. Thankfully, both our parents were very supportive through the process and really helped us in many ways. But when we talk about my career, when we talk about with real estate and then speaking, even writing a book, I have been really grateful to find mentors who have taken me under their wings and guided me through the process, but I showed up as someone who is teachable and committed. And so I believe in any industry, in any profession, in anything you want to do, there is a mentor out there who is willing to help you along on the way. You have to go find them. You have to be bold enough to reach out and say, I need help. I don't know it all. And you need to be teachable. Because if you're not, the good people are not gonna spend their time with you. And there's no chance I would be where I'm at today without mentors in my life, including now speaker mentors that I found and that I'm extremely connected to.
And I think along those same lines, there are so many people, it's funny because this imposter syndrome comes up.
Mhm.
And where you feel like, and I've done this before, where I've walked into rooms, I've paid to be in rooms, I've been invited to rooms where I've sat down and looked around and been like, what on earth am I doing here? Like, these people have had so much success, and you get in your own head and whatever. So, one of the things that I found personally is that when I show up and I am just me and I am super real about where I'm at, like, yeah, this business over here, not generating revenue right now. Or, you know what, we were doing really well and XYZ happened and now I'm lost and I've never encountered this before. When you show up just so authentic and completely as you are in the situation that you are and you're open about it, I think that opens the door too for mentorship and for people to lean in and be like, hey, hold on. Like, I've been there, I've done that. And I think that's so powerful. And Barb, that's one of the things that I connected with you on right away is your authenticity. So
Wow.
I'm just wondering if you just have comments around, be it imposter syndrome, be it authenticity, just kind of that theme.
I got a lot of comments about it. I know it's the number one thing lacking in society that's holding people back from their dreams is number one, not knowing who they really are, or knowing who they really are, and like I said before, not loving that person, because that's what was going on with me. Even as successful as I wasn't as fulfilled in life because I knew who I was and I was afraid to show up as her. So that's number one, is you have to now I'm not saying so I always make it really clear when I do my keynote that's more on the personal growth and development side and it's more on the relationship with yourself. I'm always very clear, and that authenticity does not mean bringing your whole self everywhere you go. Authenticity does not mean oversharing, throwing up your life on somebody. Authenticity means the pieces of yourself that you do bring to rooms are real. You don't walk into a new room or a new community and share your entire life with somebody. But the conversations that you do have, talking about your business, you're not pretending it's perfect, but you're understanding this imposter syndrome thing, which I have like a bone to pick with like the dictionary or whoever created the definition of imposter syndrome, who has people out there thinking that imposter syndrome means you're a fraud or you're a fake. That is not true. Imposter syndrome simply is a sign that you're growing. You're stepping into a room you've never been in. You're stepping into a role you've never been in. You're stepping into something you don't know how to do, but you wouldn't be in that room if you didn't belong there. It's just a sign that you're growing. And so I tell a story in the book about my first real feeling of imposter syndrome, besides, of course, becoming a mom at 17 or 18. But my first real feeling of imposter syndrome actually wasn't in real estate sales. It was through my real estate volunteer career. And we do a lot of advocacy and lobbying in real estate. It's like the number one thing we do as a real estate association for, basically home buyers and home sellers across the US. And I was up in Sacramento at our state capitol at my first advocacy week. And that's when we all meet and then we go kind of truly storm the Capitol and we go meet with our electeds and talk to them about issues. And I was sitting in the morning briefing and they're saying words from the stage. I have assembly member. I didn't know what assembly member was. I didn't know what a bill was. I'm like, how? I mean, they might as well be speaking French on stage. And my CEO, Phil Hawkins, who now is basically like a brother to me, he texts me, and by the way, this was about 11 years ago. He texts me and he's like, "Hey, meet us at the back of the room in 5 minutes. We're taking you to a private meeting with Assembly Member Tom Daly." And I'm like, "Assembly member? Private meeting? I'm not going in that room and embarrassing myself. No way." And I'm looking like literally for the exit sign. And of course I didn't. I got up 5 minutes later, walked to the back of the room. I'm like shaking. I'm so nervous. He never heard me tell this story till he read the book and he called me dying laughing. He's like, "You seriously were?" I'm like, "You have no idea." And as we're walking over to the Capitol, he says to me, "Oh, by the way, we're not meeting Tom in his office. We're going to meet him on the assembly room floor." And I'm like, "Floor? What is that?" And not realizing we're going to like the basically chambers where the decisions in California are made, right? So I went anyways, and I stood in that chamber listening to them talk, thinking in a second, somebody's going to tap me on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, sis, why don't you sit out in the hallway? This seems a bit much for you because you look like you're going to collapse." So I stood there, I took it all in. And in that moment, I thought to myself, why did someone, again, a mentor, Phil Hawkins, who I respect so much, ask me out of the other 30 directors from our association that are sitting right there to go walk with him to this meeting? And it's because he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And I tell that story because I went in that room 11 years ago. And fast forward 10 years later, last year, I was the chair of the legislative committee for the California Association of Realtors. It's the largest committee for the largest trade association in the state of California. It's like the chair of the committee that's making the decisions of how we're going to effectively change real estate in California. And I never would have gotten there if I didn't go in that room, if I didn't accept the invitation, if I didn't step into a room where I needed to grow. And I've just continued to do that my whole career. Do I still feel imposter syndrome today? Are you kidding me? Absolutely. Some of the stages I walk in, I'm like, I do not belong on that stage. But then I get up and do it anyways because I'm like, here's a growth moment. This is a chance to grow. And so I think that the authenticity and imposter syndrome are directly combined. You can't get through imposter syndrome until you know who you are. And the last thing I'll say about authenticity, and this has helped a lot of people when I've shared this from stage, especially women in our middle ages, right? I'm assuming we don't have 15-year-olds listening to this podcast. So women in our middle ages, especially a lot of business owners, I've learned that the problem with authenticity is you feel like authenticity, you have to go do something different. You have to be someone different. You have to figure out who you are. And the way I define authenticity isn't about doing anything. Authenticity is truly about undoing everything that isn't you. Because as we get into our middle age years, we realize we have been wearing masks our whole life. We have been wearing versions of ourselves that aren't 100% who we are, but we've been programmed that way to protect ourselves. And so the first thing I want you to do when you think about authenticity is how do you undo and peel back these layers of you that aren't really who you are? That's the first step to figuring out who you really are, is to undo what you're not.
All of this is hitting home so much. And it's actually funny too, because in one of our recent Trailblazers cohort meetings, we were talking about authenticity and how you show up and all of those things. And it's funny because it doesn't really matter what stage of success you're at. To your point, Barb, like you just keep leveling up and you keep showing up in different opportunities and you're looking around going, "Oh my goodness." And we have this policy called no queen bee policy. And what that means is we do not want anybody, like for listeners out there, you're never going to catch us interviewing somebody on the podcast. You're never going to see us have a member come into our community that has the mentality of, "I figured it out the hard way. You have to also." That's not what it's about. It's reach your hand back. It's say, "Hey, come along because I have navigated this." Or having other people in there that are like, "Yeah, I've been there, done that, and I can help you through it." So this kind of leads me to the topic of your book, because I believe personally, Barb, that when a person sits down to write a book, and we're not talking about using AI to just word vomit some principles to bind it and use it as a lead magnet or a business card. We're talking about pouring your heart and soul into a piece of artwork, I believe, that is meant to impact so many. And I think that is the epitome of a give. And that's the epitome of a share. And it's years and years and years of experience wrapped and bundled into this beautiful little thing that you can fit in your hands or in your Kindle or however you like to read or on audio. So, Barb, you have a book newly released. Like last time we talked, you were like in the heart of like launch week and all
Actually,
of those
1 month,
things.
1 month today.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. So, can you talk about what is in your book? What could one of our listeners gain from reading it? And just talk about maybe a little bit of the inspiration behind it too.
Yeah. So it's The Relationship Advantage: Unlock the Life-Changing Power of Human Connection. I wrote this book. I fought this book for very long because everyone told me to just write a book on sales. Get a niche down, just write a book on sales. And I was like, no, I don't want to write a book on sales because I believe relationships are life-changing. I don't think they just, is it a sales book? 100,000% it's a sales book. But I know that relationships are so much bigger than that. And I know they're transformational in your business and your life. And I wanted to write a book that, so I happen to have at home, I have lots of friends. I have lots of friend groups across the US with as much traveling as I've done. But like my girlfriends at home, the ones I like go out for a Thursday night happy hour, right? There's 8 of us, 9 of us. 7 of them are teachers. Me and my girlfriend Amy are the only 2 that are not teachers. The rest are all teachers. So I wanted a book that my teachers' friends could pick up that would help them build better relationships with their own life and students and parents that they are, and colleagues and principals and all the things. So I truly wanted a book that anyone could pick up. And so that was why it took so long for me to like decide and finally start the book. So the book is broken up into 3 sections: relationship with yourself, no shock. How do you build effective relationships with others? And then the third is how relationships make an impact in our life. And there's 1 chapter on sales, 1 chapter on leadership, 1 chapter on building communities and networks. And then the last chapter is how relationships are actually the legacy we leave behind. And so the real answer to why the book finally got written was I was at a speaking event for a bunch of keynote speakers. And one of my mentors, a keynote speaker who's on much further along in the journey than I am, he was on stage and he said, "What's the story on your heart that you need to tell that you're not telling?" And I was like, whoa. And I've always been asked the question, why do I care so much about relationships? And the answer usually was, well, because I built a whole business and career around them. It's pretty cool. It's the most profitable way to do business. Blah, blah, blah. That's what I used to always say. I knew that wasn't the real reason, but no one had ever asked me a question to help me uncover it. And so on the plane ride home, I wrote the first chapter and it's entitled Why This Book Had to Be Written. And I figured out through him asking me that question that the real reason I care about relationships is that I was a very, very lonely kid because I was an only child. And I was an only child that grew up in the latchkey years, right? I grew up in the 80s where both parents typically worked outside of the home and they weren't bad parents. I had great parents. I had everything I needed, but they both had to work out of the home and far away. And I had no one to come home to. And I also was the very awkward child. I was not cute. I was not popular. You can read the book to hear all the details. And so I was lonely at school. I was lonely when I came home. I had to figure out how to make myself my afternoon snack. I had to figure out how to get myself to dance class, like all of those things. And so I found human connection in unauthentic ways by performing and people pleasing and all the things. And that's part of the book. But the real answer is the reason I care so much about relationships is because I know what it's like to go without them. And I always say that, like, if you talk to someone who's been homeless in their life, they will tell you they will fight with every bone in their body to always have shelter over their head. If you talk to anyone who's ever gone hungry as a kid, they will talk to you about how they will fight with every bone in their body to always have food. And so I think because I was so lonely, I know what that feels like, that I have this passion now to fix this loneliness problem in America and this disconnection we have, because I know what that feels like. And so I will fight with every bone in my body to always have it going forward. So that's how the book kind of was birthed. And then the rest is my thought leadership over 20 years of how I built my career. And then I translated it into something that humans can understand, whether you have a business or not.
That is absolutely beautiful. And, well, first of all, before I get into this kind of next question, I have a couple more questions for you. If somebody wants to get a copy of your book, where do they go? If they want to get
They
a
can
hold
just
of
go to
you, where do
Amazon
they go?
now. Amazon, good old Amazon works just fine. Barnes and Noble, all the retailers have it online. Now that it's launched, you can grab it anywhere. Anywhere books are sold.
And before we ask the last couple questions, have a little bit more conversation, if they want to get a hold of you or follow your work or
Yes,
see what you're
that's my
doing, how do they
favorite.
do
That's
that?
my favorite. So I love Instagram. That's my favorite place to hang out. It is me. It is me in my DMs. Nobody does it for me. My assistant doesn't do it for me. Of course, I'm over on LinkedIn. I don't love Facebook as much. So Instagram and LinkedIn are the best ways, or my website if you just want information.
Beautiful. And we'll make sure all of that is in the show notes for everybody here too. So, Barb, a lot of the people, the women that listen in, that tune into the Trailblazers podcast, that are in our community, they are successful. On paper, they have money, they have a level of status, they have definitely achieved, and a lot of them are absolutely lonely. And I see these memes, and I'm sure the algorithm drives it to me because I am that woman that kind of looks around sometimes and you're like, even with great relationships, and to your point, people that I love and adore all across the world at this point, like I feel so blessed in so many ways. There's still moments of loneliness. There's still times where you fight that. And I think we probably had maybe similar experiences as kids too. So, Barb, if you were to give advice to a woman that's listening that has the success, that maybe has all the stuff on paper, that really craves relationship, what would you say to her? What is a good first step?
The first step is you have to be the one to reach out first. The world is sitting around with people that are feeling just like you. Everyone's afraid to reach out first. University of Pittsburgh actually did a study. They did 13 studies on this. And they did studies on why don't people reach out and just say, I'm thinking about you, which is exactly what I teach. Why don't people reach out because you cross their mind? And people don't reach out because they think you're too busy. You don't want to hear from them. They have nothing impactful to say, but they're craving the connection. And the problem is, as a society, we're all sitting back doing it. So no one's connecting. So my advice to any woman who feels that way is be the one to reach out first. Send the message, send the DM. And I teach it in something that I'm actually trademarking right now. And it's my kind of proprietary behavior that I teach in my keynotes, which is the 5x5 method. And I still do this every single day. It's 5 messages a day to 5 people you care about 5 days a week. Just checking in. No agenda, no ask, no business. I mean, of course, you can ask to get together for a cup of coffee, but I'm talking about no sales. Just, I was thinking about you today, Brittany. I drove past that restaurant that we had happy hour at 2 years ago. Oh my God, we had so much fun. We laughed all night. Let's go back soon. Want to meet for a cup of coffee? Want to hop on Zoom? Just be the one to reach out first. And if you do the 5 messages a day, 5 days a week to 5 people you care about, I will tell you that it's 1,300 messages a year. And let me ask you a question. If you sent anywhere close to 1,300 points of connection in a year, do you think your loneliness would change? If you're listening, you can't see my head nodding, but it would. And I'm telling you that we're all sitting back craving this. And because no one's executing it, we're all feeling the same way. Now, there are people out there who are like, I got plenty of friends, stay away. Most of us are not feeling that way. So be the one to reach out first.
Love it. So, Barb, this has been so beautiful, and you are just incredible with how you share, with how you show up. I love that no matter what interaction or where we have it, you are the same you every single time. And that is something that is so admirable and just so appreciated.
Maybe different hair. You got to read the book, but maybe different hair. But
Yeah. So, Barb, is there anything today that I didn't ask you that I should have?
no, I think that I love the community that you built. I love picturing the women that are listening. And I just want everyone to know that also, probably the most important thing to know about me is even though I look like I have it all together, and even though I look like I'm the most confident person in the world, don't ever think that I don't have a day that I don't go through imposter syndrome still, that I don't have days where I sit back and have to take a dose of my own medicine and be like, well, you're feeling really lonely today. Maybe you should send a few messages and talk to people. So we all go through it. I just go through it less days than you do. That's the only difference is I've just made it a muscle. And what you will get from, if you get the book or you follow me on social media, what you will learn is I am all about being intentional. If you're not intentional, it's why it's not happening. It's not because you don't care about relationships. It's not because you don't have them. They're not at a place you want them to be in life or business because you just haven't been intentional.
Barb, thank you for your genius, for your sincerity.
That
It
was
awesome.
Yeah. Thank you, Brittany.
If this episode supported you, share it with a woman you respect and want to lift up.
Join our free Trailblazers community, the space where high-achieving women finally feel met.
You'll find the link in the show notes
Until next time, keep moving forward, keep listening to yourself.
And remember, you deserve support too.